Hey folks, it's Pat here. Got a Chapter 9 question I want to cover real quick, and that is this one right here. Selecting a distribution for inferences on the population mean. Now, a lot of people get really frustrated with this question, and that's totally understandable because some of this verbiage gets a little bit tricky. But these aren't that hard once you get the hang of it, and the concept is really important because from here on out, most of the statistical analyses that we're going to be doing are going to use one of these two distributions, either Z or T. All right, so you're familiar with Z, which is standardized normal, and then T, of course, which is just a little bit less precise, but it's still based upon a normal distribution. But which one of these used will affect most of the calculations that you do down the road. And so this is an important problem. I recommend that you knock this one out before you start poking too much around Chapter 9, and certainly before you start poking around Chapter 10. Okay? And so let's go through this. The way that I like to do this is I like to think of baseball. And so like you don't want to get too many strikes, all right? If you get through this and you don't get any strikes, you're definitely using Z, all right? If you get through this and you're getting 2 strikes, then you're using T. And if you're getting through this and you're using Z and 3 strikes, then you have no idea and you're out, okay? And so let's kind of walk you through this. And so what constitutes a strike? There's basically 3 different things that you're going to look at. First one is sample size. Low sample size is a strike, okay? Next thing is you're going to look at distribution. Non-normal distribution is a strike. And the last thing that you're going to look at is the standard deviation. Do you know the population standard deviation? If you don't know the population standard deviation, that's a strike as well, okay? And so Z's okay if you get 1 strike on here, all right? But T is 2. And then this one's a little tricky. We'll see if we find one of those, but we'll get there. So sample size is 19. So a small sample size, that's strike 1. And it's from a normally distributed population with an unknown standard deviation. So it's unknown standard deviation, that's strike 2. All right, but it's still normally distributed, so you know we got away on that one. So we got 2 strikes on this one, and so that's T. And so small sample size and unknown standard deviation. All right. Here's we go. Here's the next one. Sample size is 85, so large sample size, so no strike there. And it's from a non-normally distributed population. That's 1 strike. But notice we're not getting a third pitch here. Okay, and so we don't know. Even though this is good and this is bad, this is the one where you could go either way. Because say if we knew the population standard deviation on this one, then of course we could use Z. If we didn't know what it is, then we'd have to use T. But the problem doesn't tell us that, so that's why we get this get out of jail free card here. Use Z or T. All right, so here we go. Let's try again. Sample size is 100, so large population, no strike. So non-normally distributed population, that's 1 strike. Okay, so but with a known standard deviation of 19.1. That's not a strike, so we only got 1 strike on this one, so bam, that's a Z. All right, so always work left to right on this. So sample size is 11, and so small population, so small sample, strike 1. And it's from a population with a distribution of which we know very little. So we don't know anything else about this, all right? So basically, we cannot make a conclusion on this one at all because not only does it have this, but we're not going to get a pitch on the population standard deviation or the distribution at all. And so that one is the one that's unclear, all right? That one's bad. All right, so here we go. Sample size is 20, so small sample size, strike 1, from a normally distributed population with a known standard deviation of 19.1. So it's normal and a standard deviation. So we only got 1 strike on this one. Bam, it's going to be that guy right there. Z is good. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's just do another one here real quick. Kind of walk you through it real quick. Sample size is small, so strike 1. Normally distributed with an unknown population standard deviation, so that's strike 1 right there, strike 2 right there, that's a T. All right, sample has size 95, so it's large, so no strike. Non-normally distributed population, that's strike 1, but we didn't get a pitch on the standard deviation, so that could go either way. All right, so sample size 75, so it's large, so non-normally distributed population, bam, that's strike 1, and a known standard deviation of 1. So we know what the standard deviation is. So in that lineup or in that set there, we only got 1 strike. All right, so we can use Z. Sample has a size of 14, so small sample size, strike 1. And it's from a normally distributed population with a known standard deviation of 1. Look at this. These are almost exactly the same, okay? But this one, since sample size is small, that's strike 1. But this is a ball and this is a ball, so we can still use Z on this one. Careful, look how closely these are worded, okay? So just the difference between that and that, and then of course the sample size, but of course each one of those only has one strike, so Z. That's a good example. All right, and that's problems like that are why people get so freaking frustrated on this one. All right, so I'm glad I got one there I could show you. All right, then finally sample size is small, 15, so strike one. From a population with a distribution about which we know very little, we have no idea where this one is going because we don't know anything about the distribution or the standard deviation, so that one is definitely unclear. Here we go, I'll give that a check. And we got all those right. All right, so a quick explanation of that one. I hope that helps. And if you have any questions on that one, or if that was clear as mud, please ping me. But otherwise, knock this guy out, because it's going to make a big difference in some of the other topics down the road. So, and we'll see you for videos on those in the future. See you there. Bye.